It's January 1st, 1991, New Year's Day. Here at the Deborah Samson statue, we'd like to introduce our report.
Early Years, written by Lauren Aber. Middle Years, written by Anna Krejci. Later On, written by Brett Tillman. Map, Zev Fisher. Early Years. Deborah Samson was born in 1760. When Deborah was 5, her mother sent her to live with her cousin Fuller. When Deborah was 8, her cousin Fuller died. Her mother wanted to take her back, but she was too old and ill. Deborah was put in custody of 80-year-old Mrs. Thatcher. Deborah became a servant. A minister removed her from Mrs. Thatcher and put her in custody of Deacon Thomas. Deborah was to be a servant in the Thomas household, a servant for 10 years. And in that time she learned to read and write. 10 years went by fast, and she was free to do as she pleased.
In Deborah's middle years, fighting during the war was getting worse by the minute. Deborah decided she would do anything, including dress up as a man, to become a soldier. Finally, after days of thinking about this, she finally decided to do it. Deborah wove several large and bought a man's hat and shoes. At that point in the war, Deborah was so determined she signed up to be a Continental soldier. She was to fight for 3 years. Deborah soon discovered she hated war and looked in disgust as the Tories died. Later, she was at the Tories' hideout and was hit in the leg with a bullet. A soldier that came to the hideout with her picked her up and brought her to a hospital 6 miles away. The doctor took the bullet out of her neck, but Deborah didn't tell her that she had one in her leg. If she did it, she would be discovered that she was a girl. The doctor questioned her since she was limping, but she told her that she needed to lie down. She was tired.
Soon after Deborah Samson was shot in the leg, she was called to place in an important march. There they stayed in an attic. One of the soldiers died. They buried him and tried to keep it a secret. She went to the hospital because her leg was hurting so bad. Her secret was found by a nearby doctor. She was thrown from the army and was never let back in again. She met Benjamin Gannett and decided to marry him. She had 3 children and took in baby Susanna, an adopted child. She died on April 29, 1827, at the age of 67.
At 300 East Street at one time, Deborah Samson Gannett lived with her husband, Benjamin Gannett. The residents of the house now are Mr. and Mrs. George Argambaugh. Deborah now lies at Rockridge Cemetery. A simple slab of slate in the older part of the cemetery marks the grave of Deborah Samson Gannett. Died April 29, 1827. This is Deborah Samson Park, originally the site of the gun house where ammunition and arms were stored for the Sharon militia.
Because of Deborah Samson's efforts and other women like her, women are now allowed to fight in war. The first time women could fight was in World War II in 1942.
Okay, this stone, big flat stone, was originally the front doorstep to Deborah Samson's original house, which was up Billings Street about a quarter of a mile, where she and Benjamin Gannett actually first lived. Her 3 sons, built this house that sits here for her, and they used the front doorstep in this front stone wall that they made. This was all part of the original Deborah Samson Gannett farm. all this land, and it extends way beyond those woods that you see off in the distance. Okay, this is the main barn here. At one point, when Deborah Samson lived here, it was connected directly to the house. There was a fire, I'm not quite sure what year it was in. There was a fire that destroyed that section of the house, so it has since been rebuilt and the barn's got a new front on it. But the stonework that you see in the front here was done way back then. This is another view of the back pasture, which back in Deborah Samson's time was used as farmland, and today is still used as farmland, mostly for crops of hay. Here we have the other barn, which as you can see needs a lot of work, and this is what we call the side pasture, which was also used as pasture land when Deborah was here. At one point, you could see all the way from here to Billing Street. There were no woods, and it was just all pastured in with animals. And now you can see how the forest has come and reclaimed the pasture that doesn't get cut. We cut this now. This is still farmed for hay also. Here's an old picture of the house. You can see here the connection between the house and the barn. This tree here, it's said to have been there when Deborah lived in the house. We're not actually sure about that, but that's one thing that's interesting about this picture. Here's the stone wall, which you saw in the very beginning of the film, that runs along here. And this is an interesting picture because now across the street in this area right here is a pond. This right now is a meadow. So the pond was not always there, and whoever took this picture is standing in the middle of what is now the pond, looking over towards the house. As you can see, there's hardly any woods back here now. The side of the barn is, sir. And the actual entrance to the house is right here on the side. Much fancier frontage. There's a nice porch with a railing and fancy pillars and a big entranceway, which now has been changed. The porch is no longer there, and it's just brick staircase going up to the front door. All the shutters, you can see I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's all colored shutters for each of the windows. And again, this is the bay window that was pretty impressive back in those days. This is a more recent picture, still in the time when the house was connected before the fire. The barn's been trimmed up a little bit. They've added some accents to the barn. You can see a little bit better picture of the railing on top of the porch and the fancy railing along the side with the fancy front entrance. Again, this is the same stone wall that's still here today. And the big tree that we saw before is now gone. This now does not exist here anymore today either.
Lauren, Anna, Zev, and I would like to thank Miss Albertin and Mrs. Buckley for this very special report. Thank you. Boy, Deborah, it really is freezing out here. Boy, Deborah, it's really cold out here today. It's really cold out here, huh? There you have it.